He never expected a single glance from a stranger to feel like gravity shifting around his heart. But the moment her silhouette filled the doorway, tall, poised, wrapped in shadows and cold starlight, Aidan felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years: heat, attraction, danger. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, didn't even know if she was human enough to breathe the same air he did. Yet he felt that impossible pull, like she had reached inside him and turned a forgotten switch back on. And if he'd known what she truly was, the most powerful woman in the galaxy, maybe he would have looked away. Maybe he would have taken a step back. Maybe he wouldn't have let her children crawl into his life so easily. But destiny isn't polite. And love rarely asks permission before it starts rewriting someone's fate. Aidan Hale only knew one thing in that moment. When their eyes met for the very first time, his quiet, predictable world ended. The night had been slow at Earthhome Cooking, the outpost diner he ran on the far edge of the celestial rim, a lonely little hub where wanderers stopped to breathe before continuing across light-years of emptiness. Aidan liked it here. It was quiet, steady, nothing like the chaos of his old life. He had found peace in the soft hum of lights, the faint scent of broth, the rhythmic clatter of metal against ceramic. It was the kind of place where a man could disappear without vanishing completely. But then the door slid open with a hiss, and two small figures stepped inside. At first, he thought someone's kids had snuck in. But as they moved closer, the truth hit him: blue skin, luminous eyes, delicate, elongated ears, braided hair that shimmered faintly like woven stardust. They were alien, but young, frightened, and clearly exhausted. The older one, barely up to Aidan's chest, held the younger's hand tight, whispering something soft in a language he couldn't place. They looked like they'd been running. Aidan felt his heart tighten. Kids were kids, no matter the planet they were born on. "Hey there," he said gently, stepping out from behind the counter. "You too hungry?" The younger girl looked up at him, eyes wide and shimmering, and Aidan felt something inside him melt. They didn't answer, but he didn't need them to. He guided them to the counter, grabbed the warmest soup he had simmering, and placed 2 bowls in front of them. The steam curled around their faces. They inhaled deeply, almost trembling. "Go ahead," he whispered. The younger one reached first, lifting the spoon like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She took a small sip. Then a bigger one. Then she glanced at her older sister with a tiny nod, and the older girl finally relaxed enough to eat too. Aidan gave them space, leaning on the counter with a soft smile. Something in their presence, quiet, vulnerable, brought a warmth he hadn't felt in a long time. He didn't know who they were, where they were from, or why they looked like they expected danger to burst through the walls any second, but it didn't matter. Right now, they were just 2 hungry children. And then the diner lights dimmed for just a fraction of a second, the telltale sign of a powerful energy source passing by. The door opened again. She stepped in. Aidan straightened instinctively, breath catching somewhere between his chest and throat. Tall. Regal. Every movement controlled and precise. Her skin the same luminous blue as the children, but her presence was entirely different, commanding, sharp, magnetic. She wore a dark, fitted armor-like dress that shimmered subtly with embedded starlight, and a single elegant crest rested on her forehead. She didn't look around. She measured the room. The children froze. Not in fear, but in relief. "Mother," the older one breathed. "Mother." Aidan blinked, momentarily stunned. She didn't look old enough to have children that age, but then again, she wasn't human. Her gaze finally landed on him, and Aidan felt an electric jolt under his skin. There was power there. Not loud, not aggressive, quiet power, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. But there was something else too, hidden deep behind her guarded expression. Curiosity. She approached the counter, her steps silent. "They are not bothering you, I hope." Her voice, stars above, her voice. Smooth, melodic, with a strength woven through every syllable. Aidan swallowed. "Not at all," he said, forcing himself not to stare. "They were hungry. I just gave them dinner." She studied him for a moment longer than felt normal. Not suspicious, evaluating. Like she was trying to decipher him. Most people were afraid of her people. Or overly curious. Or hostile. But this human, He had simply fed her daughters without hesitation. Without expectation. That alone made him dangerous in a very different way. "My daughters do not often accept food from outsiders," she said quietly. "Well," Aidan replied with an awkward smile, "my cooking has a way of winning people over." For a flicker of a moment, so brief he almost thought he imagined it, the corner of her lips softened. Not quite a smile, but close. The younger child tugged on her sleeve. "Mama," he was kind. Something warm flickered in her eyes. She touched the girl's cheek tenderly, then looked back at Aidan. "You have my gratitude," she said. The words carried weight. More than a simple thank you. They felt like a declaration, like she was acknowledging something she wasn't used to admitting. Aidan nodded. "Anytime." But just as the tension softened, a shadow moved outside the diner window, quick, sharp, predatory. Aidan's instincts sharpened. "Are you expecting anyone?" Her expression changed instantly. Cold. Alert. Dangerous. "No," she said, voice dropping to something deadly calm. "Stay inside." She stepped between him and the door without hesitation, protective, fierce. The air around her hummed, a faint shimmer forming at her fingertips. Aidan stared, stunned. Who was she? What was she? And then another figure appeared outside, cloaked, watching the diner with predatory stillness. The younger child whimpered. The older one held her close. Aidan's pulse hammered, fear mixing with something he didn't want to name yet. He looked at the woman standing between him and danger, her silhouette framed by the neon glow behind her. Whoever she was. He'd just stepped into her world. A world filled with danger, secrets, and a pull he couldn't ignore. And she looked at him, just once, over her shoulder. "Aidan," she said softly. She knew his name. He didn't know whether to breathe or run. Everything in his life had just changed. Aidan didn't sleep that night. Not after the way she had said his name. Not after the way the shadows outside the diner seemed to coil with intent, watching, waiting. He spent long hours pacing the empty kitchen, replaying every moment from the encounter, the fear in the children's eyes, the regal way she held herself, the gentle tremor in her voice when her daughter whispered, "Mama." He was kind. He had never wanted to protect strangers the way he wanted to protect them. And that scared him more than the mysterious figure outside ever could. By morning, he'd convinced himself that they were long gone. People passed through this outpost all the time, mothers, wanderers, fugitives, diplomats, criminals. He told himself she was just another traveler. A breathtaking one, yes. A woman who made his pulse jump when she looked at him, sure. But just a passerby. Someone he'd never see again. Someone who didn't belong in his small, quiet corner of the universe. But then, just as he was wiping down the counter for the 100th time, the door slid open. And she walked in. This time her daughters were by her side, holding her hands tightly. The older child's eyes darted around the diner like she expected danger to burst from behind the coffee machine. The younger one looked tired, her small fingers clinging to her mother's sleeve. Aidan froze mid-wipe. She met his eyes, and something undeniably warm flickered across her face, a softness he didn't think she offered easily. "Maybe not at all. We are returning for breakfast," she said, as if that explained why the most striking woman he'd ever seen was back in his diner less than 12 hours after nearly drawing weapons in his doorway. Aidan didn't question it. "Well, you're just in time," he said, motioning toward the counter. "The stew's fresh." The younger girl brightened immediately. "The warm one?" she asked. "The warmest," Aidan replied. The woman watched him quietly, her expression unreadable. There was something in her eyes today that hadn't been there last night. Fatigue, maybe. Or worry. Or resolve. He served the children first, the way he had before. They relaxed fast this time, eating eagerly, trusting him instinctively. He felt that warmth again, something tender and intense blooming in his chest despite his better judgment. Only when the children were settled did he dare look at their mother again. She sat slowly at the counter, her hands folding elegantly in front of her. "You have a very strange effect on them," she murmured. "I'm not sure that's a compliment." "It is. They do not take to strangers." Her eyes lingered on him. "But they take to you." Aidan felt heat rise in his cheeks. He turned away under the pretense of wiping a non-existent smudge off a glass. Kids are easy, he said, trying to act casual. Feed them, listen to them, treat them with kindness. Works across species. Her lips curved into something resembling a smile. Kindness is rarer in this part of space than you might believe. He shrugged. Then I guess I'm old-fashioned. Her eyes softened again. Something about his simple presence seemed to chip away at her armor. But then her gaze drifted to the window, and the softness vanished instantly, replaced by that sharp alertness he had seen before. Aiden followed her line of sight. Nothing was there. Just the usual scattering of neon signs reflected in the glass. Is someone looking for you? He asked quietly. For a moment she didn't speak. When she finally did, her voice was low, controlled. Many someones. He swallowed. You in trouble? She turned back to him, her eyes meeting his with a weight that made the air between them tighten. Trouble follows power, she said. And she hesitated, then seemed to choose a different path. I have responsibilities that make us visible to those who wish to exploit them. That wasn't an answer. Not even close. But she wasn't lying, either. Aiden stepped closer, leaning on the counter between them. Look, if you're running from something dangerous. I am not running, she said sharply. Then, softer, but I am hiding. For the moment. Her children had paused eating, watching her carefully. Aiden noticed the fear there, the fear that came from seeing their mother afraid. Hey, he said gently, shifting his attention to them. You two doing okay? The older girl nodded. The younger whispered, Mama didn't sleep. His chest tightened. The woman closed her eyes briefly, as if the truth pained her. She looked ready to say something, to warn him, to thank him, to distance herself, but she didn't get the chance. The diner door hissed open again. Aiden instinctively stepped forward, positioning himself between the children and the entrance. But it wasn't a threat this time. It was a teen courier from the docking bay carrying a sealed message capsule, scanning the diner with mild confusion. Delivery for, he looked at the name again, brow furrowing. Lie. He never finished the name. The woman stood instantly, crossing the room in a heartbeat. She took the capsule with a swift, fluid gesture and dismissed the courier before he even realized he'd been paid. The children grabbed her hands, their food forgotten. She broke the seal and read the message. Aiden watched her face shift, fear, anger, restraint. When she looked up at him, her eyes held something new. Trust. Aiden, she said quietly, we cannot stay here long. The danger that hunts us is closing in. His pulse kicked hard. Then let me help. You already have, she whispered. More than you know. No, he insisted. I mean really help. If you need protection, shelter. Aiden. She stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. Her voice dropped into something intimate, something that brushed against the edges of vulnerability. You do not understand what it would mean to involve yourself with me. My enemies are not thieves or pirates. They are not men. They are not even governments. She swallowed. They are forces that command fleets. Armies. Worlds. Aiden's throat tightened. He couldn't look away from her. Then why come back here? Why risk returning if it's that dangerous? She looked at him with an honesty that made his breath catch. Because my daughters felt safe in your presence, she said. And because she hesitated, the word stuck on her tongue. Because I needed to see you again. Aiden's world narrowed to the space between them, the faint shimmering of her skin, the warmth of her breath, the flicker of something forbidden in her eyes. Before he could speak, the lights in the diner flickered again. Longer this time. Stronger. Her hand flew to her daughters. They found us. Aiden stepped forward, heart hammering. Who? She looked at him with a truth he wasn't ready for. Those who want my throne. He stared. Throne. The word echoed like a shockwave. And before he could process it, before he could breathe, the windows darkened, shadows moving outside. She reached for him. Aiden, stay close. And he did. Not because she told him to, but because something deep inside him already belonged to her. For a long moment, everything stood still. The shadows beyond the diner windows didn't move like people. They glided. Silent. Coordinated. Whoever hunted her, whoever hunted them, was close enough now that Aiden could feel the pressure in the air, like invisible fingers tightening around the building. The children clung to their mother, their tiny hands gripping the folds of her dark garment. She lowered herself to their level, murmuring something soft in her native tongue, gentle words that carried a fierce promise beneath them. When she stood again, something inside her had changed. She no longer looked like a traveler or a mother on the run. She looked like a queen preparing for war. Aiden swallowed hard. He wasn't sure what scared him more, the danger outside, or the power radiating from her now that she'd stopped trying to hide it. "Come with me," she said, taking his wrist with surprising tenderness. Her hand was warm, steady, and the moment she touched him, a rush of heat climbed his arm. "There is something you must know before this escalates." Before he could answer, she guided him behind the counter and pressed her palm against the metal panel beneath the shelf. The metal flickered, dissolved, and revealed a hidden corridor he had never known existed. "What the? That's not supposed to be there." "It wasn't," she said softly. "I altered the architecture while the children slept." The faintest hint of apology crossed her face. "Forgive me. I did not know if I could trust you." "And now?" he asked, breathless. She met his gaze. "Now I do." Aiden felt something warm tighten in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Trust. Connection. Something that pulled him deeper into her gravity even as danger closed in. She ushered the children inside first. They disappeared into the dim corridor, their small footsteps pattering softly. Then she turned to Aiden, her face inches from his. "You asked me yesterday if I was in trouble," she said quietly. "But trouble is too small a word for what hunts us." Her eyes shimmered with a depth that made Aiden's pulse skip. And then she finally said the truth she had been holding back. "My name is Lysera Vale," she whispered. "I am sovereign of the Celestari Dominion. Heir of the Astral Crown. Keeper of the Lumina Gates." Aiden stared at her, then let out a weak breath. "So, when you said throne, you weren't speaking metaphorically." "No," her voice softened. "My lineage governs over 14 star systems. Billions know my name. Billions fear it." She looked down, just for a moment. "And many wish to see it erased." The shadows moved again outside the window, closer this time. Aiden didn't hesitate. He stepped closer to her, his voice steady despite the frantic beating of his heart. "Then why come into my diner? Why risk stepping into someplace public? You could have hidden anywhere on this outpost." For the first time, her composure cracked. "I was running out of safe places," she said. "My own guard betrayed me. My fleet was compromised. My daughters were nearly taken." Her voice tightened with pain that only a mother could understand. "And when I saw this place," she continued, "I sensed no threat. Only warmth. Ordinary warmth." Her eyes softened as they moved across his face. "And then I saw you." Aiden felt heat rush to his cheeks. "And?" Her voice dropped so low he almost couldn't hear it. "And something in me trusted you instantly. A sensation I have not felt in many years." The shadows pressed up against the glass now, distorting the faint neon glow. A metallic tapping echoed through the diner, gentle but deliberate. Lysera's breath hitched. "They are scouting. Once they confirm my presence, they will breach." Aiden reached toward her without thinking, gently taking her hand this time. It was a bold gesture, one that surprised them both. "You're not alone," he said. "Not anymore." For a second, Lysera just stared at him, as though she didn't quite understand the feeling swelling between them. A queen was never allowed something as simple as comfort. Or choice. Or closeness. But Aiden wasn't someone she ruled. He wasn't someone she commanded. He was simply a man who cared. "Aiden," she whispered, his name rolling softly from her tongue, like it meant something to her. Something dangerous. Something she shouldn't feel but couldn't contain. The tapping on the window turned into scraping. Lysera tensed. "We must move." They slipped into the hidden corridor and sealed the entrance behind them. The metal snapped back into place just as a figure outside slammed against the diner door hard enough to make the frame rattle. The corridor was narrow, illuminated by faint blue lights Aiden definitely didn't install. The children were ahead, waiting anxiously. Lysera knelt beside them, brushing their hair gently, whispering reassurance even as fear flickered in her own gaze. Aiden watched her, watched the strength in her, the love, the fire, and felt something shift inside him. Something he didn't want to name yet. But Lysera noticed. "Aiden," she murmured as she stood again. "You are trembling." "I'm not used to assassins breaking into my workplace," he said quietly. "But I'm more worried about you." The honesty surprised her. She stepped closer, the dim corridor lighting catching the delicate glow of her skin. "You should worry for yourself. Staying near me puts you in danger." "Then I guess I'm already committed," he whispered. Something soft flashed across her face, melting her careful composure. She raised a hand slowly, hesitantly, and rested it against his cheek. Her touch sent heat rushing through him, gentle but powerful, like she wasn't just touching his skin but searching deeper, reading the space between his breaths. "You speak boldly for a human," she murmured. "Most who learn what I am fall to their knees or flee. Maybe I'm just stupid. Or brave," she whispered back. They stood close enough that he could feel her breath against his lips. Close enough that she felt the tremble in his chest. Close enough that for one suspended moment, Aiden wondered if a queen of galaxies could want something as small and as enormous as him. But before that moment could deepen, the lights flickered sharply, then all at once plunged the corridor into darkness. The children gasped. Aiden felt Lysera's body tense beside him, her hand sliding down to find his. Not out of weakness. Out of choice. "They've breached the outer wall," she whispered. "Aiden," she added, squeezing his hand, "stay close to me. No matter what happens next." And he did. Because something inside him, something undeniable, told him that whatever came next, he was already hers. The darkness pressed in around them, thick as smoke. For a moment, Aiden couldn't see anything, only the faint warmth of Lysera's hand locked around his. Her grip was firm, grounding, the kind that could steady a man even as the world collapsed around him. The children whimpered softly, clinging to their mother's legs. Lysera whispered a word under her breath, and the faint blue pathlights flickered back to life in trembling pulses. "Move," she said, her voice low but steady. "They'll seal off the exits if we delay." A distant metallic thud echoed through the diner above them, something heavy landing, glass shattering, boots scraping. The sound of intruders. Not human. Not gentle. Aiden swallowed. "How many are there?" "Enough to overwhelm a battalion," she said quietly. "But they are not here for battle." Her eyes darkened. "They want my daughters. And they will tear apart this outpost to reach them." Aiden felt heat rise in his chest, anger, fear, something fiercely protective. "Then we don't let them." Lysera looked at him with something like awe. "You speak as if you are one of my guards." "I'm not," he said. "But I'm here. That has to count for something." A slow, aching emotion moved across her face, something she couldn't hide anymore. She lifted her hand to his cheek, her thumb brushing his skin with a tenderness that didn't belong in a moment like this. "It counts for everything," she whispered. Another crash. The corridor vibrated under their feet. Lysera's voice hardened. "We must reach the emergency transit chamber. It's the only place shielded from dimensional scans. And we're going underground." Aiden said. "No," she met his eyes. "We're going off this outpost." That startled him. "You have a ship." "It is hidden. Buried beneath layers of dimensional fabric." She hesitated, as if debating whether to reveal more. "It is not just a ship. It is my palace, compressed into a fold of space." Aiden blinked. "Ah, sure. Why wouldn't it be?" A faint smile ghosted across her lips before fading into urgency. She guided the children forward, the corridor sloping downward, lights flickering. Aiden stayed close, listening every scrape, every distant hiss. The outpost was being breached systematically. Whoever hunted her was efficient, ruthless, and closing in. They turned a corner and stopped. The path ahead was blocked by a figure clad in dark battle armor, his helmet gleaming like obsidian. His body language radiated confidence, ownership. He didn't draw a weapon because he didn't need one. "Lysera," he said, His voice distorted through the helmet, yet dripping with mocking warmth. Still running. How far you've fallen. The children froze. Lysera stepped in front of them instantly, her posture sharp, protective, regal. Varkon, she said coldly. Aiden tensed. He recognized the name from whispers in the fringe worlds, a Celestari noble rumored to be attempting a coup. A man with ambition sharp enough to cut through star systems. Varkon tilted his head. And who is this? His visor glinted toward Aiden. Your human pet. Aiden stiffened, but Lysera's voice sliced through the insult. He is under my protection. Is he now? Varkon took a step forward. You risk your throne for a cook. Lysera didn't flinch. I risk nothing for him. I risk everything for my daughters. Varkon's helmet turned toward the children. Precisely why they belong with me. The younger girl whimpered, hiding behind her mother. Aiden stepped forward before he realized he was moving. You're not touching them. Varkon paused. Then, shockingly, he laughed. The human has spine. How quaint. Lysera's aura shifted. Aiden could feel it, a hum of energy rising around her like a storm building pressure. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes brightening with power she had suppressed until now. You will not lay a hand on them, she said, each word trembling with controlled force. Oh, Lysera, Varkon sighed, almost pitying. You were always stronger with your crown than without it. He raised a hand, and the corridor lights shattered simultaneously. The air thrummed. Power surged. Lysera didn't hesitate. She threw out her arm, forming a shimmering barrier that crackled with brilliant energy. Varkon's attack slammed into it, the impact shaking the walls, sparks raining across the floor. Aiden shielded the children with his body, heart pounding, but Lysera didn't falter. Not for a second. Her power grew brighter, stronger, until Varkon staggered back in surprise. You should not be able to resist me, he snarled. You underestimate, she said, what a mother will do. And she pushed back. The corridor exploded with light. Varkon was hurled against the wall, the armor sparking as cracks spread through its plating. He struggled to rise, fury shaking his frame, but Lysera wasn't focused on him anymore. Aiden, she said breathlessly, take the children. He didn't argue. He grabbed their hands and pulled them down the corridor. Lysera followed, the air still crackling around her. Varkon roared behind them. This is not over, Lysera. No, she whispered under her breath. It isn't. They burst into a circular chamber lit by swirling star patterns. The floor pulsed beneath them, humming with ancient energy. Aiden stared. This is the transit chamber, she said, rushing to the central console. Hold them close. Aiden wrapped his arms around the children as the floor vibrated. Lysera pressed her palm against the console. Rings of light spiraled upward, weaving around them like threads of cosmic silk. Varkon's footsteps thundered closer. Lysera turned toward Aiden, really turned toward him, for the first time without fear, without distance, without a wall of throne-shaped duty between them. Whatever happens after this, she said softly, know that your kindness changed everything. Aiden's breath caught. Lysera. Her eyes softened, glowing with emotion she could no longer hide. I was not meant to feel this. Her voice trembled. But I feel it still. He stepped closer, the children clinging to him, the transit energy rising like a storm around them. Then don't run from it, he whispered. Not now. She lifted her hand to his cheek again, gentle, reverent, trembling. Varkon's silhouette filled the corridor behind them. Lysera didn't look back. She leaned forward, her forehead touching his, breath mingling with his as the chamber reached critical charge. Aiden, she whispered. Stay with me. I'm not going anywhere. Light engulfed them. Varkon lunged. Too late. The chamber exploded with energy, folding space around them, tearing them from the outpost in a burst of brilliance. And when the light faded, Aiden stood inside a vast crystalline hall, stars drifting across the ceiling. Lysera's palace. Her true home. She turned to him, her daughters clinging to her, her eyes full of something fragile and powerful. This, she whispered, is where our story begins. And Aiden knew. He wasn't just part of her world now. He was part of her heart.